Rightio, so in actually shooting this video I wasn't sure if I would be able to do it out in the bush or even in the shed. We've had a lot of rain out here in the goldfields of Western Australia over the last few days, particularly big thunderstorms. So obviously this makes it a bit dangerous and a bit problematic if you're out in the open, and obviously you don't want to be running around with copper rods above your head, lightning strikes. So I thought I'd do it in the comforts of a shelter, and the rain's eased off for a little bit, so you should be able to hear me, hopefully. What did I say? Yep, audio's working. So anyway, I've got a pad, and the reason why I've got a pad is not to make myself feel or look self-important. No, it's because we've got so much stuff on the cards for 2021, but I'm going to put it aside just for a minute. Now, 2020 was obviously a big year for us here at Seriously Series. We've branched out and sort of aimed to do obviously weekly videos on Patreon, and obviously releasing them 1 week later, 1 week later or so I should say, on YouTube. And obviously we've done a number of behind the scenes videos for Patreon too, with a few sort of Patreon exclusives here and there, which obviously are not released out on YouTube. The reason why we do that is because there has to be a benefit other than wanting to support us. There's got to be some kind of benefit to it all. So you do get behind the scenes videos of what's going on and updates, and you do also get your video content earlier before anyone else. So there are a couple of the advantages there. And you also, digressing a bit, if you have any suggestions and you are on Patreon, we will seriously consider that and look at actually putting that into a number of videos or making a video on the subject too. So anyway, but 2020 was a very big year, and the reason being, as I said, was obviously we branched out into doing weekly videos, and the reason why we sort of looked at doing that was primarily because of COVID. We felt it was sort of a good thing for you guys and girls out there to get your weekly bit of, I guess, off-road adventure, landy fanboy relief, that kind of thing. So that's why we sort of pushed for that. And it seems to be working okay. It's at times it can be pretty tough. For myself, it's pretty much just been me for 2020 doing most of the videos for YouTube. Damon has been helping out where he can, but he's been an incredibly busy boy doing a number of other things behind the scenes. Obviously the short film, getting that up and running, and obviously social media and all the rest. But moving on into 2021, we're sort of trying to keep that consistent format of bringing you videos out once a week, or aiming to. But that obviously does become difficult because Damon and myself still are juggling jobs and all the rest around that, and life in general. So we'll keep doing that. We enjoy doing it. We love hearing from you guys and girls and your comments, and suggestions, and obviously a number of you have put down some really good feedback and good questions as to either something I've said or why we've done a particular video on that subject, and then you've said yourself, here's a solution that you could do using something else. That's fantastic. That's what it's all about, because it isn't just about sharing with us, it's about sharing with the greater community. But anyway, I'm going to stop there, otherwise I'll keep rambling on, and we don't want that. So for 2021, what we're looking at is, first of all, I've got jotted here Road to Ruin, the short film. Now, this has been a long time coming. I've talked about it a lot on the channel. Those of you who followed us for a number of years are more than well aware of sort of what it's all about, but for those of you who don't, about 3 years ago we completed a expedition, I guess is a pretty good term and word for it, along the world's longest track, the Canning Stock Route, and this Series 3 here. And it was a real adventure. Not in the sense of a lot of other four-wheel drive adventures out there. It was actually a battle for survival. So no frills, nothing like that. It's very much a raw and real adventure, and we've made that into a short film and into a 4-part series. So the short film was released here in Kalgoorlie on the 25th of November, and I've got the dates here for some other venues, or one other venue I should say, here in Australia. So we've just had confirmed the 21st of March, that is the 21st of March, in Tasmania at the Franklin Palais Theatre. Time should be at about 7 p.m. and that is a Sunday, the 21st. So we'll be showing it there. Damon will be there, myself will be there, and we'll aim to sort of do a bit of a Q&A session about it. There's obviously a lovely establishment next door, so we'll see if we can arrange something with them. So if you do come along, it's going to be a fantastic evening, and obviously once it wraps up, we can obviously go over to the establishment and potentially get something that's either distilled or fermented, and obviously talk a little bit more about Land Rovers and adventures and all the rest. So if you're free and you're in Tasmania and you like what we're doing, then please do come along. It should be good fun. Now, we are looking at dates for the State Cinema in Hobart, but due to COVID, they've been a little bit I guess restricted in what they can sort of tell us in regards to bookings for 2021, as this changes in the mix, I guess you could say, at the moment. So we are looking at that too. WA here, we are looking at Perth for a screening there. We're hoping that should be a big event, and that will be obviously with Luna Cinemas. We're hoping to show it particularly at their Leederville site. And we're looking, potentially, we haven't got dates locked in at this stage, but we are hoping tentatively to be able to get a showing in for late February. Now, we are working with Film Harvest 2, which is a fantastic organisation that road shows films throughout regional Western Australia. And we haven't got yet, because the world stops at Christmas, if you didn't know. We're yet to find out dates when we will be obviously showing the film at Geraldton. So Geraldton will be the next site. So if you're in Geraldton, just hold your breath. We'll get back to you shortly on that. And believe me, we will. So do make sure, if you want to, we'll let you know as best we can on YouTube, but do make sure that you obviously follow us on Facebook or Instagram, because the dates will be released on there routinely. Now, international viewers, you may feel a little bit neglected, but don't worry. We do love you too. It's all fair, we don't have favourites here. Oh, a little bit warm today, so just needed something a little bit cool and refreshing. So yes, international viewers, if you reside in the United Kingdom or the UK, we have a very special treat for you. As far as we know, the dates haven't changed for the CLR gathering, which is the Classic Land Rover gathering organised by Classic Land Rover magazine. We were told that obviously it was moved from last year, which was going to be March 2020. It's now been moved to March 2021. Now, May 2021. So that will be shown, the film will be shown on the 22nd and the 23rd of May. So check out Classic Land Rover Gathering or Classic Land Rover Magazine. We'll try and put the web link down below here for you, or pop it up top, so you can click on that and book in, get your tickets and follow that event. But that will be our big international premiere, and I'm absolutely stoked, over the moon and every other word that describes that same feeling, that we can launch it in the UK, the very homeland of the Land Rover. It doesn't say much, the Series 3, but you can just tell by the twinkle in its headlight it's really excited too. So that's going to be great, but obviously we need to see how restrictions are going over there with COVID, because things are pretty, well, according to the news, they're not great, but who knows. Okay, so other venues that we're looking at for 2021, we've got a lot here, so bear with me. So we're looking at Townsville. A good mate of mine, Joel, over there, has very kindly helped to do a bit of the groundwork in sort of finding out how we can go about doing it. We've found a fantastic venue, but obviously we need people to come along and actually watch the film. So if you're in Townsville, lucky you, we should be over there soon, so stay tuned. Darwin, we've been in touch with the Deck Chair Cinema up there, which is a fantastic cinema, really quirky, absolutely love it, been there a number of times. Obviously that operates in the dry season, it's the wet season at the moment, so we may hear confirmations back from them after April, so that's a tentative one. Adelaide, we are looking at options there too, that's yet to be sort of finalised, so we'll see how we go. Albany will happen at some stage with Film Harvest, Busselton too. Now, Sydney and Melbourne, if you reside in those cities, don't feel like we're leaving you out either. The reason why we're sort of holding off on that, and also Brisbane, is just due to these current restrictions at the moment. We really want to be able to launch it, obviously, so everyone can come along. And I know some of you may say, oh, it's all due to money. Well, yes, it is too. In order to hire a cinema out, depending on where you are, it can cost anywhere up to $2,500. So if we don't get people, if we don't have bums on seats, then we lose $2,500, and that is a lot of money. That is basically, yeah, a lot of money. So there's no other way of putting it. So we'll look at that. Obviously the screenings on the eastern states, I probably won't be there for it, and obviously the Series 3 won't be there for it either, but that will become more apparent as we move later on in the video, or later on in the video I should say. However, if it's possible, I will try and be there. So, other projects and content coming to you via YouTube and Patreon. As of March, I will be heading back home to Tassie. I've got a bit of surgery to be done. The stump's starting to come back for the second head, so I need it snipped off. Gets really itchy otherwise. So I'll be heading back there for hopefully about 3 weeks or a month, which will be great. So I'll finally get to see Damon. So that's going to be awesome, and friends and family, because I haven't been home in a long time, nearly 2 years. And obviously we've been not really stuck in WA, I wouldn't say that's fair, but we've been sort of restricted to our little neck of the woods, so it'll be nice to break out and go to another part of the convict colony. So what we'll look at doing, Damon and myself, is we're looking at doing part 3 of Edge of the Earth, and for those of you who don't know, we've got an ongoing series where we do adventures going to probably the more sort of unheard parts of Tasmania, which, for those of you who don't know, Tasmania is a very sort of rugged, remote island on the edge of the earth pretty much. It's 40 degrees south. Basically past Tassie there's nothing but Macquarie Island and then Antarctica. So it's a fascinating part of the world. It's a very interesting ecosystem, and there's a heck of a lot of history behind it too. So what we're looking at doing is exploring the east coast of Tasmania. Now, for those of you who reside in Tasmania, you're probably thinking, that sounds extremely boring, Geoff, but you obviously don't know series well enough, and I don't want to sound horrible there, but we never do things the exact same way as everyone else. We just don't. So what we're going to be doing is the east coast of Tasmania, but we're going to be not doing it on the bitumen or the tarmac. We're actually going to be doing it on back tracks, and we're going to be taking one track called the Swanston track. And then from there we'll probably head on the M Road, which is an old road that was put in for use through forestry, and then we'll end up obviously at some wonderful beach at the end of it. Looking at, if we end up at Forster, then obviously there's a fantastic pyroclastic flow, which for those of you who don't know that, there was a massive volcano that blew up, and then all the lava and ash and pumice all went flying down the slope, and you can see it there today on the beach. So it should be an interesting episode, that one, and we're going to tackle that in Damon's mighty 109-inch Series 3 Land Rover with the Holden 202 Special in it. Now, next series that we've got is Cocktails by the Campfire. Jace and I, or Jace from Overland Adventures Oz, we did an episode probably about 2 years ago. The reason being that I haven't got back to it, it's just I've been so busy. But finally I have got that series up and going again. Before Christmas I hit the road and did about 1,200 kilometres and interviewed 3 very interesting individuals from 3 very interesting organisations. And Cocktails by the Campfire was really sort of put together as an idea between myself and Jace, and I sort of pushed it because a lot of these interviews out there, particularly on YouTube and television, they're talking about the same subject 99% of the time. What's the best snap strap, what's the best shovel, what's the best tyres, but we all know that, we've all got our own opinions. But there's some really unique tales to be heard out there by individuals that I've been lucky enough to hear over the years, and there's some fantastic voluntary organisations and other small businesses, and obviously people who are a part of those, which I think are sort of those stories that really need to be heard and told, and I find them of great inspiration. So I was kind of hoping that some of you guys and girls might find similar inspiration in those too. So we'll wait and see anyway. But I went and had a chat to Kim from Kim from Oz Travel Safety Network. Got to get my organisations right, and that's a fantastic HF satellite and what they call PLB or EPIRB management organisation, primarily specialising in HF radio, and they do some fantastic stuff. I had a chat to John from Track Care. That's a fantastic organisation, voluntary obviously, that deals in track conservation, and this is something I think is really important. Not to sound like a die-hard greenie or conservationist, but let's be honest, the world's population has increased. I know when I started university, I think in 2008, it was something like, I think 6 or 7 billion, and now it's up close to 9 billion, I think. Something like that. So there's more of us out there, particularly with COVID and these restrictions. There's more people than ever buying 4-wheel drives, getting out on the tracks. So we need to be a little bit mindful of the tracks that we're travelling on, because we want obviously those tracks to be there for our children and grandchildren to enjoy and have similar experiences to ourselves. So I think that's just an interesting aspect to look at in regards to sort of, I guess, off-road adventuring, I guess you could say, or overlanding or whatever you want to call it. And then finished up with chatting to a wonderful bloke called Jimmy from Grab Me Gear. Now, Grab Me Gear is a small business which Jimmy came up with the concept of providing easier means of storage, but using local products, local talent, local, I guess, labour in order to be able to make these products and then export them, obviously, through Australia and obviously to the international market too. So hopefully it should be an interesting few episodes for you. We do have another episode of the Golden Quest series coming up for you. I talked about this on Patreon, but obviously I went out last year and actually did the Holland track in the Series 2. Sort of a bit of a birthday present for it, as it turned 59 years old in December. and that will be coming out hopefully in the coming weeks. Now, we will be doing another episode later on in 2021. Just much better. In 2021, hopefully around about April. And this will be heading out to a place called Neil's Junction. And Neil's Junction is situated south of Warburton and situated off the Great Central Road. Now, Neil's Junction is actually really quite fascinating, and a lot of people obviously just see it as a stake in the ground, but it actually symbolises a lot more. The junction was named after a guy called Neil, but what did Neil do? Well, Neil was actually a pilot, and he actually took aerial photographs of that area. And aerial photography played a real pivotal role in the development of cartography, obviously the process of making maps here in Australia. And that really happened obviously just before the Second World War, but primarily after the Second World War, because Australia had a large air force, they had heaps of servicemen, they had all the equipment, and so obviously doing aerial photo surveillance or aerial photo photography of actual remote parts of Australia really helped to sort of fill in the gaps. And that's how such features like Wolf Creek Crater were actually found. So we'll be looking at that, obviously how aerial photography played a role here in Australia, cartography, and obviously some of the other instrumental individuals who obviously sort of helped to open up that part of the world. Trip prep. Many of you have been really enjoying this series, and it's great. We've had lots of comments, lots of feedback, which is fantastic. Any feedback's good feedback, provided it's constructive, and it certainly has been. So thank you very much if you've popped a comment down below and taken the time to do so. Really makes a big difference for us. And obviously we've done a number of episodes. We've got another trip prep episode coming out hopefully in a couple of weeks, and that one's looking at field servicing. So obviously taking care of your Land Rover in the field. It won't be looking at bush mechanics. I know you might say that's the same, but for me, or my interpretation of bush mechanics, that's more trying to get yourself out of difficult situations rather than just fixing something. So we'll aim to do that obviously in the coming weeks or months, and we'll also look at navigation. So I'll tell you sort of what I use, and obviously some of you will find it rather interesting because yes, I do have a GPS, but I tend to use a topographic map and a compass most of the time. Unique 4x4, it's been a bit quiet on that front obviously. We did one episode in 2020, but we've got a couple episodes coming to you in 2021. I've just recently completed one with Ben Broder from Goldfields Off-Road, who is currently in the possession of the fastest Defender in the Southern Hemisphere. Big claim, I know you're thinking, but this bad boy has over 400 horsepower in it, and it's an absolute weapon. So we'll be showing you that. We've made a special episode on it, and what I've done is I've structured the episode in such a way that probably the first 15 minutes of it is just a brief general overview. So if you're not really keen on Land Rovers and it's not really your thing, watch the first 15 minutes, and then after the 15 minutes, if you're a real off-road going nut and a Land Rover enthusiast, sit back, charge your glass and enjoy, because we go through all the nuts and bolts and go into as much detail as we possibly could at the time. We will miss obviously certain bits of it, but an amazing car, very, very well built. Right, now it goes on, there's more. Okay, we will be revisiting Jason from Overland Adventures Oz with his Nissan Elgrand. We have had a huge amount of interest in the video that we did, and we had a huge amount of requests asking for more details in regards to what kind of springs he uses, what kind of shock absorbers, tyres, rims and all the rest. And for those of you who don't know, Jason has a Nissan Elgrand van which he has come up with his own lift kit and I guess slight GVM upgrade for the van itself. He's done it all from scratch pretty much. So very, very interesting concept, and he's been to some very amazing places here in Western Australia in basically a luxury SUV van. Pretty interesting. So anyway, we'll have that coming to you. Damon and I have also started a new series too that we're hoping to take off into 2021, and we've done the first trial episode. I'm still not sure if it worked. I've got to look into it, but this is called Landitalk, and basically what we thought we'd do is just a very simple format. We'll just be approaching a number of individuals who are obviously sympathisers to the classic four-wheel drive, and obviously those who are extremely sympathetic and probably slightly, I guess deranged like I am, or addicted to these vehicles. Actually, addicted is a swear word. You only have an addiction if you admit that you have to cut back, and I haven't got to that point yet, so it's all good. So feel free to use that too if your wife asks you, why did you get another Land Rover? Anyway, so that's what we'll be doing. Obviously, what have I got written here? And so obviously we'll be talking pretty much about trips, projects, and obviously restorations and all the rest. We have approached one individual who's quite, I consider him to be a bit of a celebrity within the YouTube scene, a very honest gentleman, and hopefully we'll be able to have a good chat to him in the coming months. And I'm going to keep it a secret because I don't want to ruin the surprise. Now, just to spice things up a little bit, events. As of November, hopefully it is still a long way away, we are hoping to be back at the Perth 4-Wheel Drive Show, provided that Toyo Tyres is obviously looking at coming back to the event. And obviously that is dependent on how things are sitting here in Australia. But I'm pretty confident by then it should be, the worst of the worst should be blown over, and hopefully it should be relatively business as usual back there. So we're hoping to obviously have the Series 3 down there by then, and that should be great. Now, back onto content, we've got servicing your 4x4. A lot of you have really enjoyed this series that we've been running, and many of you who I've had the joy of speaking to over the phone have got a lot out of it, and obviously many of you who I've also had the joy of messaging and having a chat with through Facebook have really enjoyed it too. So what we're going to be doing, and I've already filmed an episode here, is obviously how to pull an engine out, what do you look for, how do you get it ready to put it back in. So we've got that. Gearbox overhaul, I'm going to pull the gearbox out. There's a couple of things I just want to check on that. Electrics too, we'll try and have a look at that a bit more. And suspension and GVM upgrade, which we're hoping to get it sorted in the Series 3. As of February, we've got something very interesting coming up for you there. With Ben Broder once again from Goldfields Off-Road. Goldfields Off-Road has very kindly come on board with a new project that we've got coming up in 2021, which I'll talk about a bit later on. And they have agreed to be able to modify and put together the Parenti in such a configuration to make it what we believe to be one of the most ultimate support vehicles you could possibly have. Now, because as you've seen this far, I'm going to be a very busy boy, I'm not going to have time to do all the modifications on the vehicle myself. So therefore I don't see there any shame in myself putting up my hands now and saying I am not doing the work on the Parenti. Ben has kindly offered to put up his hand for that. So we are not taking credit for that. That is Ben's handiwork and the team at Goldfields Off-Road. And we're calling that Project Parenti. So there should be a couple of videos coming your way looking at sort of how do you get the 24 volt system up and going again, how do you fit an awning to the vehicle, a number of other things. There'll be quite a lot in that, so we're hoping a series of videos will be coming out there. Right, and obviously big thank you to Goldfields Off-Road for that. One other thing I need to make mention of, I should have mentioned earlier, is we have worked with Toyo Tyres in 2020. Toyo Tyres are really keen on obviously getting their product out there. Particularly we run the open country mud terrains, which are a fantastic tyre. We run them only in one configuration, and that is the 235/85, which works fantastic on the series Land Rovers and it works great on the Parentis. And by running it on the Parenti in a 235/85 and running it on the same in the series Land Rover, it means that we can interchange the rims and tyres and all the rest if we're out bush, so that works really well. They've made up their campaign called Make Your Move, and this is basically to sort of try and encourage people and bring a number of fantastic deals out to you guys and girls here in Australia, so you can actually have that opportunity to get out and explore your part of the country. We understand that obviously Victoria and others are still are restricted, but if you can explore your neck of the woods and make the most of it, then you know you're doing a fantastic job. So we've worked with them, we've given them a number of I guess footage which they've sliced into a fantastic commercial which you can watch by clicking on the link up above. And obviously we've provided them with a fantastic commercial that we're very, very proud of, which we think showcases very much what we're about, but also shows the Land Rover Series 3s and the Parenti obviously keeping up with the latest and greatest in the off-road going scene. So it really does show, even if you do own a classic four-wheel drive, you can teach, you can teach old dogs new tricks, so very much the case there. Now obviously we're getting to the end of the video, I won't bore you anymore, but we have a huge project coming up in August of 2021. Shouldn't have to think about that. And this is where we'll be doing another big feature-length documentary series, like what we did for Road to Ruin. We will be doing one called Dustin Dreams, and basically this will be starting off in what I call the true centre of Australia, which is the Red Centre, Uluru or Ayers Rock, depending on what school you went to. And from there we'll be telling the tale about a number of really interesting individuals who set out to this barren, hostile part of the world to really sort of make a name for themselves and make their fortune. In particular, Frank Hannon's one that not many people know of. Lassiter obviously is a little bit more famous. Len Bedell, who obviously traversed some of the harshest country in Australia back in the 50s and 60s in a Series 1 Land Rover. That's right, he didn't even have a vinyl interior like this one. So we're going to be looking at that, and we're going to be heading south from Ayers Rock, going past the Giles Weather Station, which was put in for the Woomera corridor for the Woomera Test Firing Range back in the 50s. And then we'll be heading from there down to Warburton, and Warburton will be heading all the way south down to Rulina on the Trans line, and from Rulina we'll then be heading all the way south to the Australian Bight down at Twilight Cove. Now, in order to do this, logistically, this means it's actually quite difficult, and that's one of the reasons why we're taking the Parenti along. The Parenti has a trailer which fits onto it called a number 5 trailer that is designed to carry, I believe, up to 20 jerry cans. And that's going to act as our fuel pod and obviously carry the water that we require. Because from Warburton right down to Cockle-Biddy, which is a distance of pretty much just over 1,000 kilometres, there isn't actually any permanent water sources along the entire length, and this is known as the Connie Sue. So it is the longest road in Australia without water. So that is going to be a real feat to be able to complete it in a Series 3 Land Rover, and it's going to be just as impressive to do it in the Parenti. So that's going to be very interesting. Obviously from Laverton pretty much to Gillara at Ayers Rock, there's a few towns along the way, but there's no big sort of, I guess, hubs of civilization, you could say. So that's going to be just an adventure in itself, just getting to where we need to start the trip. So we're hoping for that to obviously be a 4 or 5 part series, depending on how much, I guess, content and footage we get. And we're hoping that obviously to be produced into, once again, into some form of a television series. Road to Ruin, the 4-part television series, Damon and myself have finally got round to sort of critiquing it and obviously getting more of the story out of it. And we're hoping for that to sort of be completed this year sometime, hopefully earlier in the year than later. With that, we're hoping obviously we can then pitch it to obviously some kind of media outlet that will be interested in the content. We've had some very interesting conversations over the last few years in regards to television stations, production companies and all the rest. Television stations usually tell you that you need to go and work with a production company in order to get it on television. Makes sense, because 2 blokes who drive Land Rovers and haven't produced a television series before is probably a bit of a risk. But the problem is that most production companies aren't interested in projects that aren't theirs. Makes sense, doesn't it? And Netflix, Stan and all the rest, well, you have to go through a thing called an aggregator, which means you pay $2,500 for someone sitting at a desk in Sydney or Melbourne, and they will pitch it to Netflix, Stan or whomever, and you may have a chance of getting it on there. But considering Netflix only puts up, I think, something minuscule, like I think 2% or 5% of Australian content actually on their online streaming service, and our stuff is probably considered by many to be too niche. And because we've got 4-wheel drive mentioned in it, they probably think it's a bit too redneck. Most of them sort of just start running off into the distance and we never see them ever again. Not saying that we're hard done by, we certainly aren't, but we've just got to find the right people and the right job and the right place in order to make this happen. So we're going to keep working at that, and we really hope that we have a bit of success here, obviously in 2021. As always, a massive thank you for you guys and girls actually stopping by and watching this video. And if you've got to the end, thank you very, very much for taking the time out of your busy schedule. It's a very busy time of year, I understand, believe me. But yeah, thank you once again. And look, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, click on the subscribe button, click on that notification button too. There's going to be some interesting stuff coming this way in 2021. And look, obviously, as I've explained, we're really trying to make a big go of it here in 2021. I have actually sort of given up my job as an exploration geologist. I'm only working part-time now, and the reason being that I've done that is I really want to sort of pursue this and make a go of it the best way we know how, with Damon and myself. And with the film tour also, it just wasn't going to work, you know, working full-time and doing that, and obviously then trying to refine and produce a television series on the side too. So that's one of the reasons why we're sort of pushing harder more than ever to get the best content out on YouTube and other mediums too. So look, if you are enjoying the content, I know I always say it at the end of the video, and by the time you get to the end of the video, you're probably looking at the next one you want to watch, and that's fine, I do the same. But look, click on the Patreon icon, it's not going to kill you. Have a quick look, see what you think. If it's not your cup of tea, that's fine. But look, the whole point of Patreon is that it's just a way of being able to support, I guess, content creators here on YouTube, because with YouTube you get 0.01 cent per view. So it gives enough to probably, you know, keep the bank accounts running. But other than that, you're not going to be able to sort of keep a roof over your head and food on the table for very long with that. So Patreon's sort of designed to be able to just give another source of income to YouTube content creators. So that's sort of why that's there. So we're not trying to rob you of your money. It's just, this takes time, effort and all the rest, and for as little as $1 per video, so $4 a month, you know, that's pretty cheap. You can get, as I said before, you can get the videos before anyone else. You can obviously get behind the scenes, and obviously we'll be trying to bring out more content for you, more exclusive Patreon content for you in 2021 too. So that's why that's there. So anyway, I think I've taken up enough of your time. Anyway, as I always say, check out Patreon. If that isn't your cup of tea, visit our website, seriouslyseries.com.au, by clicking on the web link in the content section down below. The reason why I say that is there's a donate button there. You can click on that and you can just donate via PayPal. Quick, easy, done, dusted. And as I've already said, if you're new to the channel, click on the subscribe button, click on that notification button too. Anyway, thanks again for watching, and I hope to see you in our next video.